Hey y'all, welcome back to Mina Unfiltered. I'm Mina and I have lots of opinions and even more questions, so let's get into it. Today I want to talk about religion. I've been on a big religion kick lately, just about the history of different religions, the usefulness of religion, the function that religion serves in societies, and I'm currently wondering, and I've had this thought for a long time, if religion has outlasted its usefulness. So, sociologists usually think of religion in the sense of belief, belonging, and behavior. So, belief, like what do you believe in? Belonging, what kind of communities do you belong to? And then also behavior. So, do you do any rituals or any worship behavior, things of that nature? And I'll link an article down below about kind of a little bit more into that. But I've been thinking about it because I'm someone who hasn't been religious since I was a small child. And I look around and I'm from the South. I live in Tennessee, and I just see so many people taken advantage of by their religious institutions. There's also in the US a rise of Christian nationalism and the functions that is used. And I see people who aren't even religious use religion to manipulate other people. And so, just with humans' propensity for like in group versus out group situations, I wonder if religion has outlasted its purpose. So, obviously, there are benefits to religion, right? So, community, there are people who go to church every Sunday, and maybe that's, the only socialization that they get. If they're retired or if they're disabled and can't work, maybe that's all they have. There's also hope, when you're going through something difficult and you can't really think of any answers yourself and no one else can give you the answers. It can be nice to be able to lean on some supernatural belief. And then also just kind of connection and, confidence in the future. And I don't know, it can help you for some people, it can help them heal if they've been through something difficult, to say, well, my life is designed and God or whomever has a plan for me. So I recognize that there are benefits to religion, but looking around, I just can't help but see more and more downsides to religion. There's the obvious ones like religious war, right? Like, obviously, that's not good. Committing genocide in the name of your religious texts, not good. And bigotry, exclusion in the name of religion, not good. And I feel like the downsides are ramping up, whereas the benefits are shrinking. So you have fewer people actually going to church services or what have you services, at least in the West. I will give this caveat that I'm from the US, so I tend to think of religion mainly in terms of belief. And, I know there are people who are, and I was raised Protestant, right? So I know there are people who just do the rituals of religion, but they don't believe in like doctrine or exclusionary things like that. So I get that. But where I'm from, down in Tennessee, people are deep in the belief. And it shows up in our government, it shows up in how people vote for policies that harm people, especially LGBTQ people, youth, trans youth. There is some xenophobia that slides in because it's like we are God's people or we are God's nation, and the others, we need to protect our country from the others. So if people of different religions, there's that tribalism, in-group, out-group stuff that comes up. And so I'm at a point now where I kind of feel that we need to move past religion. The thing is, you can't just be like, we need to get rid of religion and then not provide any alternatives. And I think that a lot of the alternatives that we have aren't good enough. So the reason why religion works so well is because I think the belief mixing in with the belonging. So what happens a lot of times in like atheist churches or whatever communities, non-religious communities, is that there's maybe a sense of belonging, but there isn't a belief. And so if you have moments where you feel like you don't kind of believe, you can still lean on that belonging. Or if you have moments where you feel kind of isolated, you can kind of lean on that belief. But I feel like there isn't that in non-religious communities. So I think we would have to figure out a structure where people had something shared to believe in, even if it's, and this is where things get tricky. I think we would have to go heavy on local community building. You know, instead of solely relying on the internet or trying to build this giant monoculture, I think we would have to get out in the streets, get off YouTube, talking to myself too, and, you know, build community with people. Because if you say, you know, we want to make our community better, you know, when you think about something like MAGA, Make America Great Again, that's their goal, you know, so they have this giant ideal of making the entire country look a certain way. But a lot of studies will show that like people's opinion about national politics and their opinions about local politics, once you really talk to them, can be different. So people, you know, if they have a neighbor that they're regularly in community with, they'll be, you know, say, oh my God, no, I don't want my, you know, neighbor to get deported. But if they're watching, you know, a giant news network all day, and then they'll say, oh yeah, we should definitely close the borders, you know. So I think we would definitely have to work on local community building, reaching across the aisle, getting people off the internet, out of algorithms that are made to outrage and trigger, and just really, really put in some hefty work there. We would also have to give people something to believe in, give people a reason, you know, to think that their community should be better, their community could be better. So I think it would have to be locally based, community focused. And I say community focused because I think once you start getting too big, I think that's when the phobias really can kick in. So, you know, wanting to make my local community in the city that I live in better is one thing, or even my state better, one thing. Once you get to the country level, then you can start getting like xenophobic and anti-immigrant and things of that nature. So I think it just, if you can build local communities, local community hubs, I think that's how we would have to do it. And it would take a lot of work, and I also think a lot of imagination, and it also wouldn't happen in one lifetime. So I think that's why people don't start. But I'm just of the opinion that it's better for people in general and for communities in general to have their shared belief be in something tangible, like a better community, than to be in something supernatural and unprovable. Because I think also it's a slippery slope when you start encouraging supernatural belief systems in people. It can make people vulnerable to abuse because they think, you know, oh, well, you have guidance from this, you know, supernatural being, this God or what have you, the spirit, so I'm going to listen to you. Or I'm primed. You're also priming people, I think, to believe stuff without evidence. So maybe you have your own personal evidence. Maybe you've had a spiritual experience where you felt like, oh my God, I connected to the spirit, so I believe in this. And so you go out and evangelize. And other people who haven't had that experience, maybe they're like, you know what, I want to feel this experience, or I'm scared to not believe in this because this person that I trust has had this experience. So they kind of go in believing without evidence. And I think that's a dangerous precedent to set, because if you can get people to believe in something without evidence, then you get into the place that we are now, where expertise is questioned, where experience overrides fact a lot of the time. So this is something I've been thinking about a lot. I'm curious to know your thoughts. Are you a religious person? If so, what role does religion play in your life? How do you use religion? How do you view it? If you're not a religious person, kind of same questions. You know, have you ever been religious? How do you view religion? What would your ideal society be like? What role, if any, do y'all think that religion should play in society? Because my thing that I always would say, I stopped being religious when I was like 10. My thing that I always would say is like, oh, well, as long as, they're not hurting anybody, anybody can believe what they want. And then I think the issue with that is with religion specifically, it also comes alongside moral and behavioral mandates that people, if you're basing your life on this religion, you're gonna want those mandates to spread out into your society and into your community. So now it's not, I won't drink, or I won't have premarital sex, or I won't, I don't know, twerk, to nobody can drink, nobody can have premarital sex, nobody can twerk. So I think a big piece of work, because there are also people I know who believe that you can't be moral without religion. They think people who aren't religious like are just out here wanting to kill people and beat people up and do all this crazy stuff. I'm not interested. So I think the work that needs to be done is to, one, have real, tangible, in-person communities for people that aren't based around religion, but that still have a sense of shared ideal and shared goals. And then two, it's really working to unravel morality from religion. So if you can have a moral code that, the community can agree on, that is based on actual evidence that, these things, like killing people is objectively not a good thing to do. Hurting children is objectively not a good thing to do. So there are moral standards that we can base just on universal human principles that we can build our community standards around. And then anything beyond that, that if you want to follow something in a text, that's your personal business. But I think we do need to really hammer in that, like, you can have a good, just, moral society that's not based on religious principles. And I think that that's something that America in particular struggles to do. So this is getting kind of long. It's getting way longer than I initially planned for it to be. But yeah, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on religion? Please comment below. I'm always happy. And I really started this channel because I want to engage with people. I don't just want to yap to myself or have people watch me and feel good about myself and feel, important and famous or whatever. So I really want to have a two-way conversation. So yeah, let me know. And then also too, I wrote a little bit about this on my Substack, Mina Unfiltered. So I will I will link the Substack article about religion and whether or not we should keep it going or try to find something else below. But yeah, y'all, thanks so much for listening. This has been Mina Unfiltered, and I will see you next week.